This is Haley from Haley and the Crushers.
Singing, come on, Eileen. At this moment, you mean everything.
And you're listening to the New Wave Podcast.
You're tuned into the New Wave Music Podcast, your go-to destination for exclusive interviews, album reviews, and the latest music news. And now, here's your host, Steve.
Today I'm excited to welcome a very special guest to the show, Jesse Hartman from the band Laptop. If you've been following indie electronic and synth-driven music over the years, you know Laptop has really built a unique catalog of songs. We're going to go back to the beginning and talk about some of the classic tracks, dive into some newer songs, and find out what's next for this new chapter of Laptop. Jesse, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
So if you can you take us back to the beginning? How did Laptop first come together?
Well, I guess I'll go way back to the beginning. When I was around 18 or 19, I had my first tour as a guitarist for Richard Hell. I was a young voidoid. Formed the band Sammy after that. And Sammy released 2 albums, one on Sonic Youth's Smells Like Records, and the next one was on Geffen. After the Geffen record, I guess I was a little bit disillusioned by the major label world and decided to kind of go solo again. And I kind of went back to the basement, did it myself. I think I didn't know it was going to be a new thing, but it was sounding so different than anything I had done before. Before I was in a kind of guitar indie mode in the 90s, and now the century had changed, and I was using a lot more electronics and synths and loops and samplers, and so I was on my laptop a lot doing all this stuff, and thought it'd be funny to call it Laptop. It was kind of like calling your band Television in 1974. So it was me doing a lot of the instruments kind of in a Beck style. And I did 3 albums like that. I did sign with another major. I signed with Island Records after releasing a few singles. And that was also a disaster. So here I am. I took a little time off and made this record. I think there's 20 years between the 3rd record and the 4th. So it's quite a story.
So for listeners just discovering Laptop, how would you describe the band's sound and what makes it unique?
Sonically, always mixing genres, maybe in a kind of a Bowie-ish way. There's a lot of synths and loops and things, but there's also a lot of real playing. And I guess the effect of like where it's at right now is kind of like a little bit of an homage to that kind of Compass Point Studios Talking Heads era, like Remain in Light, because it's got a very like simple structure, a little bit of an electronic feel, but there's a lot of playing that's going on around it. And I have these amazing backup singers on the record, and there's horns, and it's like kind of a throwback to like almost like that, Peter Gabriel Talking Heads time, where, you use a lot of world influences. And so it's indie rock, but it's got this global quality. And then lyrically, I'm very like in the mold of Jonathan Richman or Lou Reed. The songs they're very New York. They're also very funny sometimes, sardonic, a bit bitter at times. My lyrics used to be in like an earlier Laptop were kind of like about like relationship chaos, I would say. Tough relationships with ex-girlfriends and friends and personal things. And this record is more global, and about bigger issues and big themes. So that's a big change for me. I there's a song about Jan 6 on this record. There's songs about like humans consuming everything, but always very tongue in cheek and kind of funny and mysterious. So it's been fun.
How I discovered you was your agent actually was kind of talking to me and saying this is kind of like Lou Reed mashup with a little bit of Talking Meets Talking Heads. And I think that fits the description perfectly from what my experience was with Laptop.
Yeah.
I definitely want to get to the new album, but before we do, if we can go back to the beginning of the band's recorded history just to expose our listeners to Laptop, to your first album, 2001's opening credits. What stands out to you now looking back on that album?
I really love the older stuff. I kind of feel like it was almost like ahead of its time in a way, and I kind of want to bring it back. I'm actually talking to a label about maybe doing a greatest hits, because I had a song called Greatest Hits on that album. So I thought it might be funny to lead a greatest hits record with a song called Greatest Hits. And yeah, like I'm playing a show April 9th in New York with Art Brut, and I'm doing mostly old songs that night from that record, actually. A couple of new ones, but the crowd might know that older album because like Art Brut was big fans of Laptop back in the day, so that's why they had us on this show, which is really nice. And so yeah, I'm still really into the old songs and definitely mixing them in, and might release them again this year. They need to be heard, I think.
Speaking of your older songs from that album, I have a couple questions on a couple tracks on those, if you're okay, if we go through those.
Yeah, yeah.
So the song End Credits.
I'm sorry, I'm not home right now, but leave me a message and I'll call you right back. Thanks.
Stop this teenage movie, you dig? I'm ready to roll the end credits. I'm ready to roll the end credits.
Really connected with me, and I think it will connect with our listeners. Can you tell us the story behind that track?
Well, that's the first Laptop song that was ever recorded. It kind of like defined Laptop. I'd never done a song like that, and it was the age of answering machines. That was like our smartphone in a way, and it was super important and a kind of a funny part of all of our lives. I was probably having some typical relationship trouble around the time, and I think it was based on one particular situation where a woman broke up with me, but I was about to break up with her, and it was all very petty. And I think that song kind of summed up not only that relationship, but like all of our relationships at that time. And yeah, I thought it would be funny to have a girl play that girl on an answering machine. So I didn't actually use that girl on my answering machine, or actually I think it's her answering machine that I'm calling. I mean, the whole song is like me calling this person, and we made my voice sound like I was talking on the phone. And somewhere there's a longer version of that song that's never been released, where at the end I actually leave the real message. It's like goes on and on and on. It's like that Seinfeld episode when George calls and leaves those messages on the answering machine. Yeah, so I love that song. It uses like beeps and stuff from the time that you would hear on the phone, and it's a very dense song with lots of loops and organ and synth bass and cool like Eno-y guitars. I was really into Brian Eno at that time, and so that song really kind of has it all, packed in.
So another standout track on that album is the song Nothing to Declare.
I walked across the African plains. I looked for love, and all I got was this lousy t-shirt.
Hope you have enjoyed the light and have a good day.
I've got nothing to declare. I've got nothing to
What inspired that one?
That was, we were traveling around a lot. We were going to England a lot because things were going well for us in England. So we're kind of going over, coming back, going over, always seeing that nothing to declare sign. And like you always had to fill out those cards on the plane, which are now gone. But there were these, those cards that had all the questions, the 20 questions. So, are you carrying any animals? Are you, do you have cash? Do you have, all these things it's asking you to have. And I think I was just feeling like flying back one time. I was feeling like, God, I really didn't, nothing came of this trip, right? We played a show. I didn't meet any love interests. I kind of like felt lonely. I felt like I went away and all I had with this was this lousy t-shirt, that feeling. And so the song kind of played with that idea, and it used those questions from that card. Then when we did the artwork for the CD single, we did this whole cool safety card thing. There's a cool music video. The music video, for some bizarre reason, features me as Don Quixote. I think because he's like the ultimate traveler, and he's a traveler, he's romantic, but nothing ever comes of it. So Don Quixote started playing this role in the video and on the artwork, and it's just it was a fun cinematic project.
So one surprise that I found on the album was your cover of Billy Joel's "It's Still Rock and Roll to Me."
What's the matter with the car I'm driving? Can't you tell that it's out of style? Should I get a set of white wall tires? Are you gonna cruise a miracle mile? Nowadays you can't be too sentimental. Your best bet's a true baby blue continental. Hot funk, cool punk, even if it's old junk, it's still rock and roll to me.
What made you take on that song and reinterpret it in the style of Laptop?
Yeah, that's a funny one. When I was growing up, I grew up on Long Island, which was a half hour outside of Manhattan. And there's two like particularly very famous musicians from Long Island, there's Lou Reed and Billy Joel. And so I was definitely more of a Lou Reed guy than a Billy Joel guy. Actually, kind of like at times kind of disliked the Billy Joel phenomenon. Now I'm like more partial to it. It's grown on me over the years. But at the time, I thought it would be kind of funny to tackle a song that wasn't really particularly important to me or that I was fond of. And maybe it was my way of kind of grappling with the fact that I had sort of left rock and roll to do Laptop. Laptop wasn't rock and roll the way I used to do it. So I think it was kind of like an ironic, funny thing for me to do.
I enjoyed it. It just kind of listen to the album and it just kind of hit you like, wait, this is Billy Joel. It was just kind of a unique take, and I like how you didn't do like a straight cover. It felt the tone of the album.
Yeah, it's very different. Yeah.
But you also released another album in 2001, The Old Me versus the New You. What was happening creatively that led you to putting out two albums in 2001?
Yeah, that's funny. Well, kind of what happened was I signed with Island Records in like a year or two earlier than that. And I had all these singles already before signing with them. And then I went into the studio and I did a lot of songs in the studio, like in a proper studio. When Universal bought Island and everyone that had signed me got fired and lots of bands got dropped, we weren't going to put the record out under those circumstances with them. So when I left, I had like so much material that was recorded. And so we broke it into two records. It wasn't like one was recorded and then the next one was recorded. It's songs from that whole period prior.
So on that album, if we can talk about the track The New You.
You need a gimmick, you need a stick, you need to change something, you need to reinvent it. change your name. Lift your face. Yeah, change your everything. I like it. I like it. I like it. I much prefer the new you. So much better than the old you. Yeah, I much prefer the new you. So much better than the old you.
What was the idea behind that song?
It's a good question. Again, I think I was grappling with this chameleon-like change that I had made in my life and made creatively. So I think that I was almost poking fun at reinvention, at myself, at other people that reinvent. I think that was like a theme running through a lot of that early stuff. If you're going into rock and roll, do you change your name? Do you like pretend you're from a different background than you are? I mean, there's a lot of those games that get played, and I think that I was always sort of like into reinvention, but also self-conscious about reinvention. So it's kind of like a song about reinventing yourself.
Well, the song Whole Wide World is another one of my favorites.
I go the whole wide world just to find her. I go the whole wide world just to find her. Yeah.
What inspired that one?
Always loved that song. And so that was a little different than the Billy Joel song. It wasn't like me taking a song I didn't like and kind of reinventing it. It was like a song that I really liked and reinventing it. That was the third Laptop single. End credits, Give Me the Night, and then Whole Wide World. And a label called Fierce Panda put out Whole Wide World. So it was like like its own little thing. There's a really cool music video for that. That was our first Laptop video before we did Nothing to Declare. So those are online. And Whole Wide World, yeah, it was like Fierce Panda said, we want a cover for our next single, and will you do that? And I picked that song because it was a favorite. And then Reckless Eric himself heard it, contacted me, seemed to like it enough to join me on stage for a show in London to do the song. Is there a video of that, a recording of that? I don't know. I don't think so. But it was quite a night. It was really cool to kind of play with him.
And then also on the album, there's a song 21st Century World.
With a kind of X-ray vision, he sees inside skulls, inside skin. Greens turn to run things.
What can you tell me about that song, and what were you trying to capture with that track?
That's a funny one. That was based on a Philip Dick novel. I think it's based on one particular book. I think it was called Martian Time Slip, maybe. So yeah, that was one of those like sci-fi kind of songs based on a book that we liked at the time. And it's funny, there's a song on the new record called Thirst that is totally similar and kind of a sci-fi song. And so I guess that's another theme that I've liked to play with, like a dystopian, futuristic thing. That particular track's probably the most Bowie of the songs on that album. It's got some really cool sounds going on in that song.
So jumping ahead to 2009, you released the third Laptop album, Don't Try This at Home. How did your sound or perspective evolve by the time you made this record?
The third record was a little different. It was a little more humanly played than the other two. I would I went back to using a real drummer. It's still electronic. Like I think we were using electronic drums, but it was actually someone playing them. And not as loopy. There are some loops and things, but so it's a little more organic. In fact, the lead track on it, "Want In," which is one of the most successful laptop songs that was in some TV shows and things, is not really very electronic at all.
Want in, you want in, the door. You want in, kid, are you sure? Once you're in, much at all. Like that, I know so much what it is like to be. I've spent my life with a pick of the lock. But if you can't do, might as well teach. And if you can't teach, might as well teach.
So I guess I was getting back to my roots a little bit on that record. So it's definitely a laptop record, and there are some songs that sound like the earlier stuff, but some of it is a little more, maybe it's like Laptop and Sammy mixed or something like that. It's got a lot of great stuff on it. It's just a little more, maybe a little more rock, I would say.
So another standout track besides Want In, which you already mentioned, was the title track, Don't Try This at Home.
I know that you feel free when you strum along. Well, I know how wrong your dreams can go. Don't try this at home. Don't try this when you're alone. Oh, don't try this at home. You're gonna hurt yourself. I know.
That was another one that really stood out. What can you tell our listeners about that one?
Oh, that's cool that you mentioned that song, because I don't think it got like a ton of attention at the time, even though it was the title track. But Eddie from Art Brut, who we're playing with, has requested that we play it at the show that we're playing with them. And I'm going to do that. So I haven't played it live in 25 years. So that is a track that I'm like starting to focus on again. I wrote a movie called Don't Try This at Home. And so the song was sort of intended to be like the title track, not only for the album, but for the movie that I was working on. Because the movie was about a young kid who sort of like idolizes a rock star or punk rock star, kind of like I did with Richard Hell. And so the movie was like about a story about this kid seeking out his hero. So the song kind of mirrors that story. I did end up making a movie that I directed called House of Satisfaction, which is not so readily available yet. And that is kind of what that screenplay ended up turning into. I think not the next video, but the one afterward, I'm going to use footage from this movie that I made. So you'll see that little kid, and well, he's not a little kid, he's like a teenager. And I'm playing the role of the Richard Hell character or that kind of character.
So the song Ratso Rizzo.
But lately I see changes. I see some beautiful changes. Yeah, you're back, Ratso Rizzo. Yeah, you're back, Ratso Rizzo. Yeah, I'm glad, Ratso Rizzo. You're back in town.
I have to ask about that one.
That is like kind of an homage to the movie Midnight Cowboy. And there's, the Dustin Hoffman character is named Ratso Rizzo in that song. The song's really about New York and gentrification. And I think I wrote the song at a time where New York was a little bit returning to its old, dirtier, fun self. And so it's like a celebration of the kind of Ratso Rizzo character. And I'm saying, you're back, Ratso Rizzo. You're Back in Town, because I was noticing that there was like a lot of guys like that walking around all of a sudden. And I think we're a little bit in one of those times now, actually, where New York is getting a little grittier. It goes in waves, but I think I like both. New York's is like when it gets nice and easy and clean, it's kind of nice, and when it gets dirty and weird, it kind of reminds me of my 20s, and it's kind of fun again.
So the last track I have to ask you about from this album is What Makes Jenny Run.
Is she insecure or revengeful? What makes her chase the rabbit? Access Hollywood for their approval and still say she's independent. What makes people end up acting so deceitful? What makes people wind up becoming so evil? What makes Jenny run? What makes Jenny run?
What can you tell me about this one?
Yeah, it's so funny going through these songs because I'm starting to see some patterns that I didn't normally see. Yeah. But What Makes Jenny Run is also influenced by a book. There's a famous book called What Makes Sammy Run, about like a really ambitious young guy named Sammy who's like goes to Hollywood and he does whatever it takes to make it big. He's kind of I don't think it's like a flattering portrait of that character, but I had a conflict with an ex-girlfriend who accused me of being like that, sent me that book as a joke. So this is like a little bit of a revenge song. Her name is not Jenny, but it's close to Jenny. So it's a little bit of a revenge because the irony was that I kind of think she's a little bit more like Sammy in that book than I am. So I think she was projecting on me. So that song is a little bit like, well, take that.
So now years later, you're rebooting Laptop. What can you tell us about this new version of the band?
I spent like 20 years like thinking I was going to make another record and like never doing it, and humming songs into my voice memos on the phone and writing songs with my kids in the living room, just like domesticated, and now I'm not just dealing with life and not recording. But there was this like buildup of stuff, like hundreds and hundreds of like song ideas. And I don't think I was thinking I was going to do anything really, or maybe, someday, I don't know. But COVID hits. And I think during COVID, I'm doing more music because it's like you're just stuck in the room and your kids are learning piano or whatever. And like, I'm like thinking, right? And then we finally leave the house. We decide, okay, it's COVID sort of ending soon. You're feeling it's ending. We picked like this island called Nevis in the Caribbean that I was always curious about. And so that was going to be like the big get out of the apartment, take a trip. And I get down there on my own because my family, there was some delays, and I'm like alone, and I walk into this bar on the beach. And it's like, it turns out it's open mic night. And it's like all these people from the villages, all these musicians like coming into this bar and like playing cool African things and reggae things and rock things. And I'm at the bar, and there's this old guy from London sitting next to me. And we start chatting over some rum. And it turns out he was Brian Eno's drummer from like the early 70s. He's on the Peel session that's online. And I'm like, what? This is too much. Like, I'm in the Caribbean. I got the Brian Eno thing going on. I got the like local Caribbean music going on. I'm like, what am I like in like, this is 1982. And I'm like, we're going to record Remain in Light tonight, And so that kind of like, that got me going again, actually. I think I got on stage and I played something or other, and it kind of kicked things off. And so the next summer I went to Spain with that drummer, Mike Demaray, And we went to Spain and we recorded like for 4 days. And I did like 70 songs in 4 days. It was like this crazy thing. It was like I hadn't done it in years, and it was like all this buildup. And it's kind of like when like Paul Schrader talks about writing Taxi Driver. It's like it took him like a week because he had been thinking about it for like 10 years. And it was like that. It was just like this crazy outpouring of stuff. And so what's cool is now I took the first 10 and made this record. Like we did overdubs in New York, and I went back to the island and got some of those people to play on the record. But there's like 60 more songs. So there's another 15 that are done, ready for another album. It's a little like 2001, again, where 2 albums maybe, because I do have another record kind of ready to go. So that's kind of what kicked it off. And then my son became involved. He's 20 now. He sings on the record almost the whole time with me. My 13-year-old does these cool like Pink Floyd, Another Brick in the Wall kind of backup vocals. And then the record just has so much cool stuff on it. It's just like it's a little different than the old laptop. That was mostly me. There's like 30 names on the credits because there's horns and steel pan and weird homemade banjos and like, but it's still kind of got like an electronic core, but it's just got this life all over the place. And then lyrically, it's just really fun because it's kind of dealing with some big things, but in a funny, ironic kind of way.
Well, if we can discuss some of the newer singles that have come out,
Yeah.
I've got to say the song Weirder is one of my new favorite songs.
They sit around and stare at metal squares. It's getting weirder, it's getting weirder. While they melt and no one seems to care. It's getting weirder, it's getting weirder. They're eating up every last animal and worshipping some pretty terrible people. It's getting weirder, weirder on this planet. It's getting weirder, weirder on this planet. It's getting weirder, weirder.
How did that track come together?
That's a great one. Well, that's kind of like what I'm talking about. Like that started out being a song like 20 years ago, like when Charlie, well, maybe 15 years ago, he was like 3 or 4 years old. And he had this whole, he was a crazy kid, and he had this whole story about how there was an alien inside of him that had 16 eyes on his belt, and this alien sees the world through his eyes. And he was serious. Like he felt like he was, I think Charlie felt like he was an alien, and in some ways he kind of was. So he had this kind of wild story going on for a year, and I used that to write the song, years later. So, there were like demos of it along the way. So that's one of these, there's like a whole set of songs on the record that kind of come out of this like crazy kid brain. I Don't Know is another one. And there's a third one, Squirrel a Bug, which is the next single, March 24th. So yeah, there's a playful, weird, surreal kid energy to 3 out of the 10 songs, I would say.
What can you tell us about the song Additional Animals?
That one came out of being in Spain on that trip where we recorded the record. I just thought it was funny. I love Spain, but I thought it was so funny, like just how much damn squid there is everywhere there. Like it's like on every menu, everyone's eating squid. I was eating squid, and I was just like, how is there that much squid to feed all these people? And I'm only in one city, so just multiply that out. I was just like, there's just a lot of squid going on. And so I ended up writing kind of like this funny environmental consumption critique, but I'm kind of critiquing myself because I'm not eating the squid, I'm eating the squid and enjoying the squid. So the song is a little bit poking fun at the critique, but it is a critique. So yeah, it's like actually about a big issue, but it's personalized.
Let's also talk about Indie Hero.
You said together that we could be stars. Get ready to fly. I'll dive across the table for you, my anti-hero. I'm feeling so unstable for you, my anti-hero. Oh, my hero. Oh, my hero. Oh, my hero.
Well, that's based on my experience when I was Charlie's age and I met my punk rock hero or heroes. There was a number of people in the neighborhood where I was. So I was, you were running into like Lou Reed was having brunch over there, and then Sonic Youth was at the bar, and then David Johansen's in the diner next to you. I met Joey Ramone one night in a bar. Richard Hell. I was like a kid around all these like New York heroes, and they were heroes of mine. But when you meet them, it's not always as heroic and as fun as you think it's going to be. My college band, we did a demo at Chris Stein and Deborah Harry's loft that Chris Stein produced. I mean, there were some crazy like run-ins like that. And so that song is kind of about the meeting of your heroes and mythologizing people and then maybe being a little disappointed. So it's a bit of a anti-hero song. It's I'm grappling with the whole thing.
So, and finally, the last track I want to ask you about on the new album, Xanadu.
Well, that's a funny one because it's kind of a love song to a house, which is a strange thing. And then it became maybe about something bigger, like the American dream gone wrong in a way. It's really about a couple that buys a house. They want to turn it into a dream house, and then it just becomes like a nightmare of where the terrible MAGA contractor and just like financially. And I've done this in my life a few times where I've like tried to make like a Xanadu, like a project. I did this. I had a rock. Well, I had a comedy rock club in the East Village in like 2007. It was the same thing. Like we got a group together, got a building, renovated it. Like we're going to make the coolest place, like a Max's Kansas City or a CBGB's kind of thing. And these things they seem great when you jump in, but then things get really crazy and hairy and relationships get torn apart in the process. And so it's a bit of a song about that, like wanting to do a dream project, like Fitzcarraldo, the movie. And then things just coming apart at the seams. And then I made it a duet because that's kind of what the song is. It's like a couple singing the song. And so one of the singers from Nevis, this woman, Anna Hadid, who has a beautiful voice, duetted it with me. I don't even think she knew what it was about. I just pulled her in and we did it. But it's got a lot of charm and it's got a little bit of a island feel because of where we did it.
So I do have to ask you about one other cover that Laptop's done. The song Christmas Card from a Hooker in Minneapolis.
Charlie almost went crazy after Mario got busted. Went back to Omaha to live with my folks. Everyone I used to know was either dead or in prison. So came back to Minneapolis. This time I think I'm gonna stay.
What made you want to record or reinterpret that song?
Well, that was like one of those, like everybody knows like one song on the piano and you always play it like in the living room at a party or something like that. That's my version of that. It was my go-to song as a kid, and I would do a pretty good imitation of Tom Waits at the time. And so it was just a song I would kind of go to in social situations. So I've always wanted to play it. I didn't think of recording it, but it was Thanksgiving and my family was over, like my cousins and my nephews and nieces. I have a very musical family. Like my niece is this woman, Odetta Hartman. She has a solo project called Odetta Hartman, and her sister, Camelia Hartman. There's just a lot of really talented people in my family. So during Thanksgiving, we just kept trading off, going to the basement, doing overdubs. And it all got done in that one Thanksgiving session. It's kind of a fun thing to do during Thanksgiving. So maybe that'll be a tradition now. Like we'll do a holiday song each year at Thanksgiving. So that's happened kind of spontaneously. Yeah, it's a kind of robotic jazz or something the way it came out.
Looking across the entire Laptop catalog, what track stands out to you personally?
Well, I think the ultimate Laptop song is I'm So Happy You Failed.
But yes, I'm so happy you failed. I'm so happy you lost your mind. I'm so happy you failed. Your misery makes me
The ultimate funny revenge song. There's a really great video for it. That was like the best video I think that Laptop did. I think that's the ultimate Laptop song. It went through many incarnations. It started out being kind of this slow, ballady, epic sounding thing, and then Island felt like it should be a single, so we sped it up. I went to London and we did a kind of a remix of it, which is the version that's on the video. But then came back to America and I felt like I wanted to rock it up and speed it up a little bit more for an American audience. And Paige Hamilton came in from Helmet, and he was a friend of mine at the time, and did some great guitar work on it. So that version is the one that's on opening credits. But I like both. I like all the versions really. Yeah, I kind of want to bring that back. I think it would. I think the sentiment of it would play well right now. Maybe better than it did.
So my final question for you is one that we ask every artist we interview. Can you share a story from your time that you were performing that really stands out to you, whether it stood out for being a great performance, bad performance, or just something plain strange?
I don't know. A couple come to mind. Well, my best show ever, like with the most people and the most enthusiastic, fun crowd, was in Valencia. And that was kind of like at the beginning of Laptop. It was like one of those weird things. It's the reason I wanted to go back there actually to do this record, because I always loved Valencia because of this day and night. We pulled into town. We were on like a small tour of Spain. We were playing like 200-person clubs and stuff, and it was fine. It was fun, and but it was small. We were like we were on a little indie label in Spain. They had just done a single, and we pulled into town, and we were in some hotel, and I go to the desk, and the guy's looking at me really weirdly. He looks really nervous. I'm like, what is going on here? Like, I had never been to Valencia. I'm like, is this what they're like here? It's like, I don't know. But he was like, he pulled out something from under the desk, and it was our CD, and he wanted it signed. So I realized at that moment, I was like, something very weird going on in this town. Um, and it turned out that this very famous radio DJ had said that our record was like his favorite record of the year. So, I guess that made everyone crazy. I mean, that's what it was like back then, like before all this crap and before social media and Instagram. Person, one cool person who everyone respected could say, this is a great record, and then everybody would go buy it. There wasn't like a lot of noise. It was just like there were curators like Steve Lamacq in London, and that was helpful for bands like ours, because we didn't have a lot of money behind us and a lot of marketing, and there was no way to get the word out. So that's what happened there. And so that show was just absolutely crazy. There was like 4,000 kids there, and so that was a little taste of bigness. That was fun. Other shows, I don't know. I used to love doing like Laptop just by myself, unplugged in London, just me and an acoustic guitar, because the lyrics would really kind of come through. And I did one show like that toward the end of my days there, which was fun. But it's notable that the opening band was Death Cab for Cutie. Death Cab for Cutie's first show in London, they were opening for me, playing acoustic by myself. And they were like fans of Sammy. They knew, I guess they were aware of like who they were playing with. And they were very nice. And so that was a very funny moment.
So looking ahead, can you tell us what's next for Laptop? You mentioned there's a couple shows you're going to be playing, and it sounds like there's a full album on the way. Can you let us know when that's going to be coming out?
Yeah, so there's two more singles, Squirrel a Bug in March, and Always Something in May. And then the album is called On This Planet, and that's going to come out June 5th. I'm going to probably do the last two songs on the record as little singles after that, because I wanted to do a music video for each song on the record. So yeah, a few more singles coming, the album coming. I would like to reissue the old stuff like that we've been talking about in the fall. So if we do that, then I'll probably focus on that for a little bit. If not, this next album's ready to go. And it's really, really good. So I can kind of continue like releasing songs like for a while, because they're just there and they're good. So yeah, I'm not going to be really writing and recording so much because there's like a lot of material there. Yeah, so I'm excited.
Well, definitely looking forward to it. What's the best way that we can keep up with everything Laptop? What's the social media channels we should
Everything's called Laptop the Band. It's that on Instagram and TikTok, and the website is laptoptheband.com and Bandcamp too. So yeah. I'm trying to keep all that stuff fresh and going.
Well, Jesse, this has been a fantastic conversation. It's been great going back through the history of Laptop, talking about the albums and hearing about all the new music and what's coming next. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Can I add one thing?
Absolutely.
Somebody a guy named Jeff Gomez wrote a book about Sammy that's coming out March 24th. And it's kind of like my life story and my partner and Sammy Luke's life story and our story together, and then it goes into Laptop afterward. So it's a cool book coming out. So like on Instagram, like for the first 2 weeks of March, it's gonna be like Sammy week or Sammy 2 weeks, and having all these cool videos from the 90s and stuff. So it'll be like Laptop does Sammy for a little while before Squirrel a Bug comes out. So that could be interesting for people to check out.
Again, Jesse, thank you so much for joining us. It's been
Yeah.
great chatting with you.
All right, thank you.
Once again, I want to give my thanks to Jesse for stopping by the New Wave Studios and discussing the new version of Laptop, and also looking back on the catalog and the career of the early days of Laptop. Looking ahead to our next episode, we're going to be jumping back into the world of reviews. Dawn's going to be joining me, and we're going to be checking out the latest new releases from Morrissey, as well as last year's album from the Charlatans. I hope you join us. If this is your first time listening, we thank you and ask that you please subscribe. That's a great way to support us. And if you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to leave us a 5-star review. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Just search for New Wave Music Podcast. We'll catch you on the next episode.